do the closing speeches.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome President, Ivory Coast Canada Business Council, Karl MIVILLE de CHENE.
Ceci est notre dernier panel.
This is our last
Nous allons
panel.
parler de leadership avec vous.
We're going to be talking about leadership with you.
C'est très
We
court.
have a very short slot,
Avant de commencer,
too short.
je veux faire un retour.
But before I start, I'd like to
La salle que
rewind.
nous avons, elle est jeune.
The room here
Vous êtes
is
présents,
filled with
vous êtes
youth.
brillants, vous
You
êtes
are
là.
present, you're
On a parlé
alive,
de get a
you're
job
here.
vendredi matin.
We talked about getting a job on Friday morning.
Qu'on comprenne bien.
And now, to make sure that we clearly understand the generational split between the preceding generation and yours, the generation that preceded yours lived 50 years ago
Une Afrique en changement.
in a changing Africa, the early years of independence, a difficult Africa.
Vous vivez une Afrique en changement.
You, the young of today, are living in a changing Africa that is now reaching its full potential.
Ce qu'est la Chine.
And in 20, 30 years, we are forecasting that Africa will be what China is today. This requires leaders. You are the leaders of Africa.
Nous avons invité aujourd'hui
And to inspire you, we have invited 3 leaders. I would like to introduce them, and each in turn for a few minutes will give you their personal advice to help you become excellent African leaders for the next 30 years.
Alors, je veux vous introduire
So I would first like to
l'ancien président de
introduce
Colombie,
the former
Monsieur
president
Andrés
of
Pastrana.
Colombia, Mr. Andrés Pastrana,
Amérique latine.
Latin
Je
America.
veux vous introduire
I would
Monsieur
also
Tom
like
Pellettete,
to
qui est
present
group president du
Tom
groupe
Pellette,
Catepillar
who
aux États-Unis,
is the president of Caterpillar in the US,
qui a fait, ne vous trompez pas, de nombreux
and
mandats sur le
who
continent africain.
has had many mandates
Et
on the
pour
African
terminer, je veux vous
continent.
présenter le
And to
CEO de
conclude, I would like to
Africa Finance
present
Company,
the CEA of the
Monsieur
Africa
Andrew
Finance
Ali.
Corporation, Mr. Andrew Ali.
Alors, Amérique latine,
Latin
Amérique
America,
du Nord et
North
Afrique.
America, and
La
Africa.
parole à Monsieur Pastrana.
Mr. Pastrana, the floor is yours.
Votre Excellence.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everybody. I think that you gave us only 5 minutes to try to give our experience as what we should tell to the young people of Gabon and Africa about leadership. I think that today the leaders need 4 characteristics to be leaders, not only political leaders, but also NGO leaders, social leaders, and private sector leaders. I think that the first one is conviction. Leaders need to have conviction. Conviction in what they think is good for your country, for your company, for your people. Conviction is faith. Faith in what you're doing. Faith in what you want to do. In my case as president of Colombia, I had to deal with the United States to try to end narco trafficking in my country. And I had the conviction that working together with the United States, we, Colombia, are the producer of cocaine, but the United States is the #1 consumer. So with the theory of co-responsibility, we put the money, but you have to put the money. And today, Colombia, it's a different country. Second, you need confidence. Confidence in what you're doing. Confidence in the strategy you think you should do for your company or for your country. And what happened with confidence at the end is that it's trust. Trust means security. The third characteristic of a leader today for the young people, courage. You need courage. Courage to take decisions. Decisions that sometimes for a governor, for a president, for a mayor are very difficult because goes against the polls, goes sometimes against the public opinion, but you have to do the right things for your country, even that people don't understand at that moment. That's what you need, courage. Courage is what President Bongo told us yesterday. And the end, you need, the last one, it's communication. You need to communicate in what you believe. You need to go through your own people. Now you have Facebook, Twitter, you have Instagram, you have everything. So it's the way of how to communicate. You were telling me to give a short story as a message to the young people. I was kidnapped by the strongest, the most powerful criminal of the world called Pablo Escobar. I was kidnapped when I was running for mayor of Bogota. Safely, I am alive, the only one that's alive of a kidnap of Escobar, and I was elected mayor of Bogota. Then I became president of Colombia, and I went after the drug cartels. I had, in 4 years, 97 attempts to kill me in 4 years. And then I extradite the 130 leaders of the drug cartels, and today Colombia, it's a growing economy, a country with security, and a country with future. For you, the young people, it's your sacrifice, it's your work. Even if your country goes the worst difficulties, believe in your country. Believe in yourself. Your country, your future is in your hand. Nobody is going to take it from them. Thank you very much.
Bloomberg refers Mr. Pellette as Tom. So Tom will explain to us how he sees what's a good leader for African people.
Well, fantastic. First of all, it's an honor to be here, and thank you for the invitation, and Karl for letting me speak. Very difficult act to follow. Distinguished panel here, and fantastic message, Your Excellency. So it's great to be here. At Caterpillar, we're very excited about the future of Africa. There has been tremendous progress made across the continent over the past 50 years. And when you look at the potential, when you look at the population growth, when you look at the fantastic youth, with more than 50% of the population under the age of 25, tremendous development needed in infrastructure. So a wonderful potential, and so we're excited about that. And really, the message when I talk about leadership, I really want to talk about political and economic leadership, I would say, to start with, but then finish with a story about personal leadership and really diversity, and really the diversity in the generations. So my company, Caterpillar, began its life in the US in 1925. And just 1 year after that, our first dealership outside of the US was in Africa. And in fact, in the 1930s, we came and started a partnership with our dealer here, still today, Tract Afrique, and continued to be a partner to the development. So continued to be a partner in the development of Gabon up to the 80s, and a fantastic success in the Trans-Gabon Railroad. We were a partner to that in the early 80s. And in fact, that was our largest project in the African continent. And now as a member of the team for the Grind project, we're very excited, an even larger ambitious project to be a part of the Grind project. So that is a long-term view. And when you look at the challenges that I think some of them were discussed here, you look at the challenges of oil prices, you look at the challenges of economic unrest, of climate change that Africa faces, are the same challenges also faced in other areas. And it really requires, from the leadership, the economic leadership, the political leadership, really the key is investment. So as we look at investment, we as leaders of politics, of economics, of business, have to provide that climate for investment. And that's really around, there's been fantastic development, continued development of transparency, of rule of law, of opening to investment in general, reduction of bureaucracy. So that's really key to attracting of investment which will overcome these challenges, which are really, if you have a long-term view, are short-term challenges. So I think from a leadership perspective of politics and economics, it's about setting the investment climate so that all of the world will look at Africa as the growth engine of the world that it really is. So this is a conference of youth. So I've seen there's been many, many topics about youth. So as we look at the leaders that maybe were participating over the past 50 years, and we look to the fantastic potential of the youth of the US, I will use as my story, Karl, what I tell my company. So we are a 90-year-old company, but change is happening so quickly. So you mentioned the social media. So who would have thought 20 years ago that we would have Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and this instant communication around the world? So disruptive change is happening at an incredible pace. And the message that I give to the leaders of my company is, if we don't change more quickly than we did 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we will not survive as a company. And I think it's also true for countries. So the pace of change is happening very quickly. And what I consider, I think Karl, we're about the same age. I call myself a dinosaur. So I'm in my 50s when I look to the youth. And really, it's the responsibility of our generation to provide training, to provide education, and to provide opportunities for the new generation. When I look back at my grandparents, I heard stories that when my parents were young, my grandparents thought, oh, this new generation, they're destroying it. When my parents looked at me, they said, you don't understand how to work hard. You don't understand what we sacrificed. You're ruining what we built. I think exactly the opposite is true. And when I look to my children, I see people that are better than I am, and I'm very optimistic about the future. And I think it holds very much true for Africa as well. We as the older generation, Karl, you and I, and maybe a few others of us, we have to get out of the way of the younger generation and give them the opportunity to lead.
Thank you, Tom. And a message for you from an African CEO, and that's how we're going to close this session. Andrew ALLI.
Thank you very much. Bonsoir tout le monde. That's about as far as my French goes. I have to say that it's a very hard act to follow someone who's been kidnapped by Pablo Escobar and actually lived to tell the tale. But I'll talk about the leadership that was involved in building the organization that I work for, the Africa Finance Corporation. We were started in 2007, and really the vision was to create an African institution that works to world-class standards, that finances infrastructure across the whole continent. A few years later, we are where we are today, which is we're a $3 billion institution, financed, at least from an equity perspective, with all African money. We've made investments off our own balance sheet of about $5 billion. And if you actually add the projects that we've financed together, it comes to something like $15–20 billion. We've been involved in a number of landmark projects. We helped to finance Ghana's first oil production, the Henri Konan-Bédié Bridge that was being discussed in the last session. We were also one of the major financiers of that. I'm told I need to conclude because the president is on his way, so I'll just wrap up. But perhaps you can look at AFC and see some of the things we've done on our website. And just to say that, this has been achieved through leadership, both in terms of the founders of AFC and in terms of the management team delivering it. And if I can just add one last thing to what the president said in terms of what you need to do in terms of leadership, I think teamwork is very important. While you need to have a vision, you need to have the courage and everything that was mentioned, you also need to bring along other people, because it's very hard for one person to achieve great things. You really need a team. And if you look at all the people, the Facebooks, the Twitters, etc. of this world, it's always more than one person that has achieved that. So rather short speech, but thank you very much.
Mr. Ali, thank you. Alors, les éléments pour vous à
So,
retenir,
what you need to retain,
la
ladies and
conviction,
gentlemen,
la confiance,
conviction,
le courage,
trust,
la
courage, communication,
l'investissement,
investment,
l'argent,
and not
et
just
le temps,
money, but
l'énergie.
time,
On parle
energy.
d'énergie depuis 3 jours.
We've been talking about
D'être
energy over the
capable
past
de
3
changer
days,
rapidement.
being able
Et bien
to
sûr, le
administer
travail
quick
d'équipe.
changes
Et je
and to
terminerai
work
en
in
vous disant
teams.
ceci.
And I will conclude
Si
by
j'avais
saying,
30 ans de moins,
if I were 30 years
je viendrais
younger,
faire mes études en Afrique,
I would come to study in
je ferais ma
Africa,
famille en Afrique,
and I would have a
je serais
family
fier
in
de
Africa,
devenir un leader
and
africain.
I would be
Je vous
proud
souhaite
of becoming an
tous
African
d'être de
leader,
fiers leaders
and I
africains.
wish you
Merci.
all to be proud African leaders. Thank you very much.
Voilà. Bienvenue, Votre Excellence, Madame.
Welcome, Your Excellency, Madam.
We stay there. Votre Excellence, bienvenue.
Your Excellency, welcome again.
travaillait avec,
We
cette
were
audience
working
jeune
at
pour
the
leur
moment
parler de
with this young generation and public,
Monsieur,
talking about
Tom
leadership.
Pellettete,
Mr. Tom
Catepillar, le rapporteur
Pellettete
du
from
message,
Catepillar gave them
Claude,
some
le
message.
président, l'ancien président Pastrana,
Same thing
le
from
président
former
de la
President
Finance
Pastrana
Corporation.
and the president
On
of
a,
the corporation,
je pense,
Andrew
commencé
ALLI
les
of
groupes
the
pour
Africa
leur donner un
Finance
challenge pour les
Corporation.
30
So
prochaines années.
we gave them a challenge for
Votre
the
exemple de leader,
coming
je
30
crois,
years,
est un modèle
based
à
also
propos
on
du reste de
your example as a leader,
Maintenant, nous
which
allons
is to show
passer à
to
une
all
séance
of
de
Africa.
signature.
Now we are going to move to a session of signing some documents, because sessions like this and forums like this are opportunities to trade. So we will start with Mr. Ali, CEO of the Africa Finance Corporations, and Mr. Regis Imongo Tatagani, Minister of Economy and Investment from the Republic of Gabon.
On signe où? Bienvenue. Bonjour, bienvenue. On devait avoir une table pour les
Well,
signatures.
normally when signing documents, we have a table.
S'il vous plaît, messieurs.
Thank you very much.
Ce ne sont pas les bons documents.
Well, if there's a problem, these are not the right documents. We don't sign this.
Allez, ta régie. Voilà. Merci, Monsieur le Ministre.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Thank you, Mr. ALLI.
Deuxième signature,
Well, second session of signing in between Tom Bennette, President of Caterpillar Constructions, and Leon Boulubou, General Coordinator for the GREN project, and Amses Aroub, CEO from Tract Africa.
S'il te plaît. Un micro. Un micro. Un, deux. Ne partez pas. Félicitations. Mais ne partez pas. Parce que
Don't go, because basically they don't know what you've signed, and they'd like to realize what you have signed and what is the value of your sign. We could ask Tom, but this is something that goes for the young generation, and let's have the younger person, and he is the new leader, and we want him to talk about this project. It's just 2 or 3 minutes. Thank you very much. First, I want to say that for us, it's an important day for us at the GREN program. We've signed an important market which will speed up our investments and layouts for agriculture. I would like to take the occasion to thank our President of the Republic to give this opportunity for the young generation. We talked about the young generation all over this forum in the last 3 days. This project will allow the youth to empower itself and gain dignity by agriculture and the ground. Now, thanks to Caterpillar, it's up to the youth to work on this project.
So first of all, it's a wonderful honor for Caterpillar to be a part of the GREN project. And thank you for the invitation, Mr. President. This project is all about the themes of this conference. It's about diversification of industry. It's about inclusiveness of jobs. And it's about reducing the reliance on imported foods. So it's a wonderful project, and we're very happy to be part of it. As I mentioned in my remarks, Caterpillar was here in the early 80s. As your father led the Trans-Gabon Railway, and now you have taken it a step further with this wonderful project, an even larger project for Caterpillar, with the GREN project and the fantastic development. So we're very honored to be a part of it, and we're looking forward, particularly for the development of the jobs, the training that comes with it, the employment not only with the local communes, but also with Caterpillar, with Tract Afrique. So we're very honored to be a part of it and look forward to a successful project and future projects, Mr. President.
Well, to all these young entrepreneurs from Africa, do not forget the advices that were given to you. Thank you very much, and have a good end of session.